Hello everyone, I'm Freaky and welcome to the video. My friends, recently I went to the cinemas to go and watch Dragon Ball Super, and around the time when I went to go and watch Broly, I was looking at the website, seeing where the movie starts, what time, what day, and what seats are free, all that stuff. And there was also the food that you can go and collect, all that shindig. And when I went to go and see Dragon Ball Super Broly, I had an amazing time. Loads of fans everywhere, everyone having a good time, the movie was fantastic. I just outright enjoyed it both times. And when I went to go and see Dragon Ball Super Superhero, I enjoyed watching that too. And by the time that this video came out, I've most likely gone and seen it a second time. And you know what? I love the cinemas. People having a good time, having a good laugh. It was just all around fantastic. And around that time when I was watching Dragon Ball Super, I was thinking about Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods and Dragon Ball Z Resurrection OF. The thing is, I didn't go and see those two movies because I didn't know they were in the cinemas, so I got them on DVD instead. And you know what? That sucked. Or maybe they did release it and I didn't realise, or they didn't release it, so I got the DVDs instead. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. But you know what? I would have loved to have seen those two movies in the cinema if I was given another chance. And not just those movies, but other movies as well. Because there all are movies or miniseries that I would have loved to have watched if they was in the cinemas, like the first Halloween movie or Scary Movie 1, or maybe one of those black and white movies or series like Quiet Master Pit. There are loads of movies out there that are either funny or they're masterpieces or they are iconic, and it was before my time, before I was born, to the times when I was a baby to a kid or I didn't take an interest in going to the cinemas, that sort of thing. There are loads of movies and series or miniseries that I would love to go and watch in the cinemas back when they first came out. And I said something the other day, something along the lines of, you know what, I really do wish that cinemas would show old movies or series or whatever. Something that's already been in the cinemas. And then somebody told me that there are cinemas who do that. Loads of cinemas do that. And when I went to go and check on a few cinema websites, that person who told me that, there are cinemas who do play old movies, and sometimes even marathons, a movie series sometimes, like Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. And when I saw this, I was really pleased. The fact that cinemas are still playing old movies, and they would change from time to time. Hell, I even saw one that had Shrek in it, the first one, and that movie's been out for like years and years. And I was like, wow, they're actually playing the old Shrek movie, and time to time they would have different movies play at that cinema. And you know what? That's great. I'm really glad that cinemas are showing old movies. And some time ago, I checked on the cinema website, and I think they actually had a screening of The Grudge. The Japanese one. I could have been wrong, it could have been The Ring. I'm not really sure, but it was one of those. Anyways, I was happy that cinemas do show old movies. And also, there was this one time when I was on the cinema website, and they had a screening of all three Lord of the Rings movies. Yeah, they were going to marathon all three Lord of the Rings movies, like back to back, one after another, in the same theatre. And I'm like, wow, if they're playing the extended version, that would be like 11 hours and 32 minutes. But I doubt they would do that. But if they could, wow, they would need to let the viewers have a break between movies. Anyways, I'm glad this sort of thing happens in the cinemas, that they play old movies, and even marathons, movie trilogies. That's fantastic. But there's a few problems with this. Now listen, if there was a movie that I really wanted to watch in the cinemas, on the big screen, like for example, Friday the 13th, or Nightmare on Elm Street, or the first Halloween, or maybe if I wanted to watch a comedy like Scary Movie 1, or Bad Boys or Bad Boys 2, stuff like that. Or Asian horror films like The Ring or The Grudge or Teke Teke, stuff like that. If they was to show any of these movies in the cinemas, I would 100% go and watch them. Or any other movie that piques my interest. But there's a problem here. The thing is, I wouldn't know if any old movie was playing at the cinemas unless I was to check the cinema websites at my local cinemas or near enough near me. I mean, I wouldn't mind going to a cinema that was a little bit further away than my nearest one to watch an old movie on the big screen, but as long as it's not too far away. Anyways, the point is, I wouldn't know if there was playing an old film at the cinemas unless I was to check every single day. Now listen, I'm not one of those constantly going to the cinemas type of person. I'll only go to the cinemas if it was something that was from a franchise that I liked, like Dragon Ball Super for example. I would 100% do that. And that's the thing. When Dragon Ball Super Broly came out and Dragon Ball Super Superhero came out, I was told about their releases in the UK by other people, or I was given a warning from people saying, oh, Dragon Ball Super Superhero or Super Broly is going to be released any day now. So I would go and look up and see the times of when Dragon Ball Super Superhero or Dragon Ball Super Broly comes out. And when I do find out the day that it's going to come out in cinemas, and I find out the time that's going to be showing in the cinemas, I would make plans on that day or another day to go and watch the movies. And it's all thanks to those warnings of people telling me, oh, Dragon Ball Superhero or Dragon Ball Super Broly is coming out soon. If it wasn't for those warnings of the movies coming out by other people or the internet telling me, then most likely I would have missed the movie coming out in cinemas. And you know what? This is what cinemas need to do. They need to actually tell us of which old movie they're going to be premiering or showing on the big screen. But you know what? I don't think it's a good idea for cinemas to actually do that, to randomly show old movies like Shrek and hoping people will go and see it. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, showing popular classic movies is great and all, but there's a few problems with this. Like, how am I supposed to know which cinema as the old movie that I would think of going watching? I mean, it could be the one near me, it could be the one that's in the next county over, it could be at another cinemas from another brand, and I would have to check other areas that they're showing old movies, like after when they bring out Shrek, or whatever other movie they're planning on showing after that. Again, I'll have to check which movie comes after that, and if it's a movie that I'm not interested in, I'll skip it and wait until it's shown, and then they'll bring out another one, and the cycle will continue until I see a movie I like, and I'll think, ooh, I might go and see that. And you know what? That's no fun, having to check every single time on the website with anticipation of which old movie they're going to be showing next. I mean, yeah, some theatres will have a schedule saying, okay, after this old movie, it's going to be this old movie next. Some cinemas do that, but I don't think most don't. And if you ask me, I think the cinemas are missing out on a good opportunity here, because instead of having some random old movie play at the cinemas, why don't they just ask people which old movie they would like to see in the cinemas? That'd be a better idea. In fact, I've got loads of ideas on how they can improve the cinema going experience. I have a few ideas on how they can make the cinemas better for old movie events. And if any cinema owners are watching this, fingers crossed, I highly recommend you guys try out these ideas for your cinemas. It might actually bring in more people. And I'm also going to bring in a few problems that the cinemas need to fix. So, without further ado, let's go. Now, to start off, instead of randomly putting up movies and hoping people will go and see them if they see them on their website, I think they should have two things. Number one, a voting system, and number two, a suggestion box. And I'll start off with the votings. Now listen, I'm not really 100% sure how the cinemas get their hands on these movies in order to let people watch them in the cinemas. But in my opinion, instead of showing random old movies, why don't they have a voting system? Like, they have a long list of movies and miniseries, and they tell people to vote on which old movie or series that they would want to watch on the big screen. It would be kind of sort of like this paper with dots. Like, let's just pretend there's a movie right next to these dots. And I'm talking about all different sorts of movies. And they can be any movie. Horrors, Asian movies, comedies, dramas, etc., etc. From coloured to black and white. And you know those little tick boxes that you see on the internet sometimes? And this website is giving you a questionnaire, and you have to click on the circle in order to go into the next question. Well, the tick boxes would be something like that. A question would pop up saying, which 3 or 5 movies would you watch in the cinemas if it was to ever screen at our cinemas? And we, the customer, would look through all these movies, and depending what they've got, and considering how many movies and series there are in the world, it would be a long list. And listen, I'm not talking about long series, but more mini-series. Something like Quagmire Pit, which I think has 6 episodes, and the episodes are around 31 minutes. You know, those sort of mini-series. Anyways, the question would be, which 5 movies would you watch at our cinemas if we was to show them at our cinemas? And depending what they've got, or what they can get their hands on, people are different. Some people prefer to watch comedies, some people prefer to watch horrors, some people prefer to watch cartoons, you know, that sort of stuff. And it would solely depend on the votes of the movies or series people have chosen. So let's just say, for example, I chose 5 movies from the list they gave me, and I chose something like, I don't know, The Grudge, The Ring, the Japanese ones obviously, Alien, the first one, Bad Boys, and Nightmare on Elm Street. These would be the movies that I would definitely go and watch in the cinemas. Or they could give me more options, like choose 10 movies, or 20 movies, or something like that. And not just me, loads of people. And after a month or something like that, they will give us the results of which movies will be shown, like from most requested movie that people want to watch in the cinemas, to the movies people least want to watch in the cinemas. And depending on the voting, on how many people have voted, the most voted movie will be shown within the cinemas. And it isn't just this movie. They could do it in a sort of like top 10. Like, okay, number 1 is the movie that everybody wants to see in the cinemas. And the second most voted movie or series will be played after that. And the same with the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th. And depending on how many people voted for the movies, and depending how many seats they have for that specific cinema room, like, let's just say for example, that there were 300 seats in one cinema room, and let's just say for example, that there were 1,000 people, or maybe more, who voted to watch the movie, just for example, Ghostbusters. You know, the first one. Or maybe they could marathon it with the second one. Anyways, let's just say, for example, that Ghostbusters was at number 1 in a lineup of movies, like in that schedule lineup I was telling you guys about. Let's just say, for example, that Ghostbusters got like 1,000 votes, or maybe more, and it was the movie that got the most votes of people who wanted to watch Ghostbusters 1 and possibly 2 in the cinemas. You know, a marathon. Anyways, if the people are serious of going to go and watch Ghostbusters, and there was 1,000 or more votes from people who wants to see Ghostbusters on the big screen, or it could be more votes than that. What I'm trying to say is, let's just say, for example, that you've got 300 seats in a cinema, and they're going to show Ghostbusters, but 1,000 people wants to see Ghostbusters in the cinemas, and they've brought the tickets and stuff like that, but there isn't enough room for people to watch Ghostbusters. So that would mean they would have to do more screenings of showing Ghostbusters in the cinemas. So, obviously, they'll have to re-show Ghostbusters at different times, like maybe 2 hours after the last one, or maybe the next day, or a few days after that, or it could be in the cinemas for an whole week. Well, depending on how many people voted to watch Ghostbusters, and they would go and see it. So, the movie with the most votes, and depending on how many people would go and see it, they would have to show Ghostbusters multiple times, instead of a one-time thing in the cinemas. Like I said, it depends on how many people voted that said, oh yeah, I would definitely go and watch Ghostbusters 1. Again, it depends on how many people voted to say, oh, I want to go and watch Ghostbusters 1. And then after a week or so, again, depending on how many people wants to watch Ghostbusters, after some time, the cinemas will go to the next biggest voted film or series or films. Like, for example, the first Friday the 13th film, and the cycle will continue, depending on how many people want to watch Friday the 13th. And the cycle will continue to number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And all these movies that was shown won't be allowed to be shown for a while, like maybe a year or something. So that way, there'll be more build-up for people to say, you know what, I really wish to watch Ghostbusters or Friday the 13th in cinemas. So really, it would be a 1-year cooldown for all these movies that was voted in to be shown at the cinemas. And no one would be allowed to vote for these movies until a year later. This is just my suggestion. Anyways, and then after that, the most voted after the first batch of 10 will be next in line, and the cycle will continue. And then as soon as that batch is finished, move up the next most demanded movies that they would watch, and so on and so on. Now, some people might actually have a problem with this, because there might be movies out there that you might want to watch, but not a lot of people voted for the movies that you would want to watch on the big screen. And yes, you do have more voting options, like 10 or 20 votes, choosing different movies. But let's just say, for example, that you wanted to watch a foreign film like The Grudge or The Ring, you know, the Japanese version, but there wasn't enough people who would take up the seats and want to watch The Grudge or The Ring. Let's just say, for example, there was only about 20 people. Yeah, there wouldn't be enough to fill up the entire cinema, so you would have to wait until enough people can fill up the seats. But saying that, let's just say, for example, that over time, people did vote for The Grudge or The Ring, and it went on for a long time, and at some point, the number of people who voted for The Grudge or The Ring met the quota for it to be shown on the big screen, and it was shown in the cinemas for about like a week or something. Now, I've gone through the voting process of which movies should be seen first and the voting system and all that stuff, but let's just say, for example, that they didn't have any movies on the list they were showing you to vote for, or there wasn't a specific movie that you liked that wasn't on the list. Like, they had this huge list of movies and series and so on, but when you looked all through them, a movie that you loved or movies that you loved wasn't on the list. I mean, yeah, sure, there's going to be like 1 or 2 movies that you do like on the list, but let's just say, for example, that there was a specific movie or movies that isn't on the list, but you desperately want to see it on the big screen. What would you do? Well, that's simple. Write down which movies that you want to see at the cinemas. Yep, a suggestion box. And these suggestions would be taken seriously, depending on the movie. Now, I'm not sure how movie theatres get their movies. Maybe they have to license them or something, but again, I'm not sure. But if it is in the realms of possibility of getting that movie that you want to see on the big screen, and isn't on the list, then filling a form out saying which movie you want to see, what year it was released, which country of origin, etc, etc. So that way, they'll have the information of knowing which movie that you want to see on the big screen. So yeah, a suggestion box. If the movie isn't on the list that they've presented, then you can just write into them and say, hey listen, I want this movie to be put on the list for people to vote on. So there you go. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. You're going to say, oh, but freaky, even if we was to vote for whichever movie that we want to see in the cinemas, how would we know when the movie is going to be shown on the big screen? Well, that's simple. Advertisements or notifications on your phone. Now, like I said earlier, when it comes to movies, you know, new movies, they have trailers, they have billboards, they have them in magazines, they have them in pop-ups on your phones, it's on the TV. When it comes to new movies, they're always bringing out that sort of stuff to get people intrigued and go and watch the movie. But when it comes to old movies, and sometimes new movies, like Dragon Ball Super, yeah, the marketing wasn't that good for Dragon Ball Super Superhero, but that's a discussion for another time. Anyways, when it comes to advertising new movies, there's money being put into these advertisements, and they go everywhere, like I said. But when it comes to the old movies, I don't think anybody would put advertisements on billboards saying, yeah, screening of Ghostbusters or Friday the 13th is showing in this cinema. It would be too much money. But there is another way on how they can fix this. There is a way of telling people that a certain movie is playing at the cinemas, and that is notifications on your phones. You know, like how you get a message from a friend on WhatsApp, or you get a notification on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube? Well, why doesn't the official apps that's made by these cinema people and say so-and-so is now showing at your local cinema? And to those of you who may or may not know, there are some cinemas out there that does have phone apps. Like, for example, Showcase. There are some cinema companies who do have apps, and if you was to go looking on the app and you pick your local cinema that's near you, or any cinema nearby, it would show you what movies there are. You can pick your drinks, you can pick your food, you can pick your popcorn, you can pick your sweets, and you can be by yourself, you can be a student, you can be with a child, and so on and so on. And not only that, if you're early enough, you can also choose your own seats. That's if you're early enough to choose your own seats. And there's the different dates that's showing, and you can also pay on the app. And if you're planning on going again, they will show you the sort of food and drinks you had last time. And if you want, you can choose the same food like you did from last time. Well, that's what I did with my app anyways. And basically that's all there is. I don't think there's really anything else other than that. But you know what? I think they could improve the app, like the suggestion of voting on which movie that you would go and see if it was in the cinemas. Or if your favourite movie isn't in the list that they provided, then you can send a suggestion in on your phone on the cinema app saying, I want this movie part of the list. You know, something like that. For example, Ju-on or The Grudge, the Japanese one, and they'll take it into consideration and hopefully they'll add that movie to the list. But I've already talked about that. What I'm saying is, they can also add something else to the app as well, like notifications, telling people what movies there are in the cinemas, both old and new. This app could tell us which suggested movie was added to the list of movies that you could vote for. It could give you notifications of new trailers for new movies, and most importantly, notifications for movies that have been chosen to be shown on the big screen at the cinema that you go to. They could give a notification to you saying what new movies there are, or any new trailers that are out, or most importantly, which old movies that are going to be screening very soon. And you know what? This will get people enticed. It'll give the old movies time to shine again, telling people that, hey, Shrek 2 is going to be showing at so-and-so cinema. Or, oh, the votes are in and this many people want to go and watch Ghostbusters 1. And if it's a movie that you really want to watch, you would go and see it. So you see, the people who owns the app for the cinemas can upgrade it to have all sorts of things on it. Again, voting for a movie, suggesting a movie, giving you some notifications for new trailers and new movies, and, of course, giving you notifications for old movies that's being shown on the big screen. And this will be perfect. People who love an old certain movie will be delighted knowing that their favourite movie is going to be playing. In my opinion, this will be perfect. But of course, they will have to get the word out there that they are updating their app and doing all these updates, choosing your own movie, suggesting a movie, notifying you on new movies and trailers, and of course, notifying you about which movie or miniseries or movie series, a marathon, is going to be playing at your local cinemas. As long as you've got the notifications on, of course, and you've got the app downloaded. This will make everything easier, and it'll bring in more profit for the cinema places. Everybody will get what they want. And you know what? I would love to have this on my phone, telling me which old movie is going to be playing at my closest theatres, or my old favourite movie is going to be playing at my local cinemas. And if I want to suggest something, I type it into my phone, send it off to them, and boom, there you go. It is a lot better than checking the cinema website all the time, because our phones will give us the notifications that we need. It is just genius. But that's not the only thing I want to suggest, because there are a few things I'd like to suggest too. Like, for example, let's just say, for example, that the cinemas was going to do a marathon of Harry Potter or Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or something like that. Let's just say, for example, that they decided to marathon the first 3 Star Wars films in a marathon on the same day, one after the other. Or, let's just say, for example, they decided to marathon all 3 Lord of the Rings movies. I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies in their extended versions are about 11 hours long. Okay, let's just say, for example, that they decided to play all 3 Lord of the Rings movies in their extended versions. I'm sure there's going to be people out there who would love to see the Lord of the Rings movies on the big screen again, or get the chance to see Lord of the Rings on the big screen. Either to the people who wasn't born yet, or people who wasn't interested in it, until years later they go, oh, I wish I saw that in the cinemas. So they would get the chance to watch it if they was to marathon it. And again, it would be somewhere around 11 hours long. But the problem is, I don't think people will be able to watch the Lord of the Rings movies for 11 hours straight. So in my opinion, I think after the first movie's done, everybody can go out and stretch their legs, go to the bathroom, get some more snacks, or whatever for about, I don't know, about like 10 to 20 minutes. You know, somewhere between there. Because I'm pretty sure there's going to be people out there watching the marathon who would want to go to the toilet. So for a marathon, even though it's continuously showing us all 3 movies of Lord of the Rings, if they was to do that, and there was no breaks, there is people who would want to go to the toilet. So I think a break between movies would be a good idea. Again, to go to the toilet, stretch your legs, get something to eat, and while other people are waiting, they could show adverts of future movies and other advertisements. And then, when the time is up, people can come back in and continue with the next movie. And then, after that movie's done, they can go out for another 10 to 20 minutes, and then they can come back and watch the final movie. If they was to do a marathon, I seriously think they should do breaks in between movies or episodes. Because again, I don't think anyone's going to just sit there for 11 hours straight and not want to go to the toilet. So if there was the marathon movies, they should definitely give people a break, especially if the movies are long, say 2 to 4 hours long. I definitely think they should take it in consideration. And yeah, I know some people wants to watch the movies continuously without any breaks, but come on, you need to go to the toilet sometimes. So I think a break between movies is a good idea. The same thing with miniseries like When I Master Pit. This series episodes are around 30 minutes long, and they're around 6 episodes. So I think having a break between episodes is a good idea. And a break between movies as well. And another thing I think they should take into consideration is the special editions. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, look at it this way. If we're going to be having all these old movies shown on the big screen, they should give us the surround sounds, they should give us the 3D special, you know, with those glasses that can see 3D, you know, that sort of stuff. Make it the best experience for new and old movies, because I'm sure there's a few movies that you would love to see in 3D and have a surround sound and all those special effects. So yeah, I like to see that when I'm watching old movies. And here's another thing I want to bring up. You know how the cinema says, oh, turn off your phones when you're watching the movie? Well, I think they should do other warnings as well. Like, number 1, telling people to turn off their phones. Number 2, telling people not to drink so much while they're watching at the beginning of the movie. Because I learned the hard way when it came to this. Because years ago, when I went to go and watch Peter Pan 2, I drank a huge bottle of Coke. And when I got halfway through the movie, I desperately wanted to go to the toilet. But the thing is, I didn't want to miss the movie, so I held it in until the end of the movie. And when the movie was over, I ran into the bathroom. I ran like the Flash. So in my opinion, I think they should give people some warnings, saying drinking too much will cause you to go to the bathroom during the movie. You should only drink halfway or nearing the end of the movie. So that way, people won't be uncomfortable for the rest of the movie. And now, whenever I buy a drink at the movies, when the movie is almost finished, that's when I start drinking my Coke. And they should give other warnings like that as well. So that way, people can watch the movie without wanting to go to the bathroom, or bringing misbehaved children into the theatres, or babies, and no talking during the movie, you know, stuff like that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, I want options if the theatre is almost full, or half full, or almost empty. Because when I go to the cinemas, depending on the movie, I like the theatres to be almost full. Like the time when I went to go and see Dragon Ball Super Broly. To me, it was just so heartwarming to see my fellow Dragon Ball fans at the cinemas. And when I went to go and see Dragon Ball Super Broly again, the theatres was almost full again. So I liked it when loads of fans get together and the entire place is full. But hey, you know what? That's me. What I'm trying to say is, they should give us an option of either going into the theatres, either in or almost full theatres, or it's half full, or there's only a few people in there. Now some people will say, oh well, I like it half full or half empty, because there's more seat options to choose, or some other reason. Some people prefer it if it was almost empty, because you know you got the old cinema all to yourself. Or they should have private screenings, like somebody hires out a cinema or a theatre, and only you and your friends or family are allowed to be in the cinema. And it could be like for an event like a birthday or some other celebration. What I'm saying is, they should give us the options of having the cinema either almost full, or half empty or full, or barely anybody in them. And whatever you choose, they will calculate the days of which theatre will be full or half empty or full or empty. And they'll say, okay, this theatre on this day is going to be almost full. Because you prefer full, this is the better option. Or if you're somebody who likes the cinemas almost empty, they will calculate and say, okay, this cinema that's playing this movie, the cinema will be almost empty on this day. So it'll be the better option. And the same thing when it's half full or half empty. And you know what, yeah, some people will say, oh, well, I prefer the half full, half empty slot. But to me, I think a full house is better, in my opinion, especially if it's a comedy or it's from a franchise like Dragon Ball Super, you know, stuff like that. Or again, if you want it to just be you and your friends or you or your family or going to the cinemas on a special occasion, you could ask the cinema if they can have a cinema room all to themselves for a day or something. And yeah, that's an idea in itself. And for the final touch is I want more food options. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, when I went to the cinemas, all they had was sweets, popcorn, and a hot dog. And they had drinks. And there was like Sunburst, there was Skittles, there was Maltesers, you know, those sort of sweets. And there was sweet and salt popcorn. And I think that was the only thing they had in terms of popcorn flavour. And obviously, there's the hot dog. And there's also the cold drinks as well. Now, the thing is, I wouldn't mind having more food options when it comes to taking food in the cinemas. I mean, yeah, there's also those crisp things that has dip sauce. But to be honest, I'm not really keen on that. And yeah, don't get me wrong, the sweets are okay too. Because after all, you're at the cinemas to enjoy yourself. But you know what, I really do wish there was more food options. Like, why not burgers? Or what about chips with ketchup and mayonnaise? Or toffee popcorn? Or cotton candy? Or one of those cinnamon swirl things? I love cinnamon. I just think they should have more food options. Warm foods, sweets, you know, that sort of stuff. Instead of just being hot dogs and popcorn and sweets and crisps with dip sauce, I just think they need to open their horizons when it comes to food. So yeah, there you go. And those are all my ideas on how they can improve the cinemas. So what do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you like these ideas? Is there any ideas that you want to add? Please let me know in the comments below and let's get a discussion going. I'm Freaky. Peace out. And please don't forget to check out my other social medias. Please go and check out my alternative video platforms, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Twitch, and please come and hang out on my Discord server. We can play games, have a movie night or a series night, or you can watch me play a few games. And if you guys have any suggestions of any videos you want me to react to, or any video ideas in general, you can tell me on my Discord. I'm also on Twitter, Gab, Getter, and Paula. I'm on Locals, Tumblr, Minds, and if you guys want to support me, please go and check out my Subscribestar. It's like Patreon, but better. All these things are in the description box below, so please go and check them out and subscribe to them. I'm Geek Freak. Peace out.